call a meeting to order tonight for June 20th, 2023. It's 5 p.m. This is the Administration Committee meeting. We'll start off with roll call.
So change her to absent.
All right, Chair Cook. Vice Chair Counter.
Present.
Supervisor Long.
Present.
Supervisor Fiedler. Present. Supervisor Burning.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, we'll start our evening tonight with public comment. We have our first person for public comment, Dan Hoffmeister. If you'd like to go up to the podium up there and then please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Dan Hoffmeister. Address is 423 190th Avenue, Somerset. And my concern is one of these small properties that is being auctioned off. The property ID number is 03210898000. This small little triangle property isn't a buildable size, and it actually jogs into our property line, and it would be landlocked between us and one of our neighbors. I don't know if... Yep. It's that one right there, yep. Yes, I think it's about 400 square feet, size of some people's living room. We were bidding on the property, but we didn't want to keep bidding on something and go crazy on something that was so tiny and small. We did get outbid, but if anybody else obtains it besides us or Ben, our neighbor, who was not bidding, they'd be landlocked and would have no access to it. Mine is to the left, it's the pine trees, and the field to the north, it's both of those. And our neighbor Ben, he has a little triangle shaped piece there too, and that's his house there. It's actually the house above it, but yeah. That's it. You bet.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak for public comments this evening? Anyone else for public comments?
If we could go back and grab the minutes, approval of the minutes.
Thank you. Yep. All right, we have approval of the minutes for Tuesday, May 16th, 2023.
So moved.
We don't require, is there anything anyone's seen that would need corrections? Hearing and seeing none, guess we'll move on. Thank you. Thanks for catching that. All right. So we'll move on then to business item number 1, the financial reports for May 2023.
Yeah, the financial report is in your packet. This is representative of May, so we're almost halfway through the year. Really, when I look through the financial report, everything's pretty much on target where I would expect us to be for the year. The revenues are comparable to the prior year. Expenses are under what we've budgeted so far. There aren't any red flags to point out to you, but if you did have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Nope.
And we'll move on to item number 2, consideration of St. Croix County self-funded health insurance plan design changes.
Yeah, I was going to say we have Jay Counter here today, so Alicia's going to stand up and present on this topic.
All right, thank you. Excited to be here today to talk to you a little bit about the work that we've done. So if you want to jump into the next slide. Just a quick overview of what we have done for the 2024 plan year. We'll go through adding a second plan and then talk a little bit about employee impact and things like that. So we can jump to the next slide. So a great renewal overall this year. We only had a 1% increase, which is really good. Currently, healthcare trending costs are around 9%, so something to celebrate. One of the big goals for the county this up for 2024 was to add a second plan to the benefit options for employees, and that was to add an HSA plan. So we did that, and we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like in this next slide. So this first bullet point just talks about this second plan. So a high deductible health plan is an IRS term that allows a member who's covered by the plan to make and receive contributions to an HSA, which can be very advantageous. So that is the plan that we set up. The plan design is in here. You've had this in your packet. If we want to dig into that in any more detail, we can. But essentially, you have a $1,600 deductible if you're single. If you're on the family or enroll as a family, which is any more than just single, you would have a $3,200 deductible. You have your max out of pockets. Typically, this plan is no copays, those types of things. So, great plan. County contribution will be $500 single, $1,000 family. That's what we're recommending. Any changes that we made from an employee impact perspective is we did make a little bit of an adjustment to the current plan that's in place, the traditional plan. The plan design essentially is staying the same. It's still $750 for a single. No big changes there, just a slight adjustment to the copay for the specialty drugs, just understanding that out-of-pocket expenses on the rise, just trying to absorb some of that cost. We also adjusted the tier structure from what was currently single, employee plus one, and family, and reduced that down to just single and family. And that would apply to both plans and the administration of the plan design and the premiums as well. So just a quick overview. You can see here the setup, basically. This is what an employee will be looking at when they make their benefit decision, is just the two plans side by side. So you have your traditional plan on the left. That is what the plan is in place right now. Again, no big changes to that plan design for last year, just that slight tweak on the specialty. And then the HSA plan on the right. So when you look at these two, that is what employees are going to be looking at and considering when they enroll in their plan. Next slide. So again, just a quick overview of that specialty change to the traditional plan. So specialty drugs are just prescriptions that occur that aren't your typical medication. They're treating very high cost conditions. And so there's usually a different tier model or structure for how those are covered. And so in the past, we've had a copay plan for specialty drugs, and we are transitioning that for 2024 to align with what we typically see in the benefit world, which is a coinsurance with a max out-of-pocket per fill. So that's how that change will look. Again, you've had a chance to review this in your packet, but this is how the premiums are going to adjust as we eliminate that employee plus one tier in the traditional plan. You will fall into that family if you are enrolling in anything else but single. And then the HSA plan obviously will start out as you see here.
And if I could just interject on this slide, the important part, I think, for you as the employer is the far right county. The county premium monthly, you'll see, is the same between the two plan choices. So the county is fixing their cost, 90% of the lower cost of the plans available, and then the employee has the choice to choose between the two plans, but they'll pay the difference in the cost.
That's it.
So I'll say first, I'm a huge fan of HSAs, the greatest thing since sliced bread. When I look at this one slide that compared the traditional and the HSA plan, I'd like to assume that there's going to be a fair amount of education that will go into here's why it's a good thing, and here's why the deductibles are so different. Because if you look at it just on the surface, like, well, you know, $750 or $1,600, well, why wouldn't you go with the traditional plan?
Yeah.
So,
Great question.
so I just want to make sure that, I mean, I love adding the option, but getting to employees to really understand the concept and the benefits of an HSA long-term are really, really critical. So can I make that assumption,
Do you want me to
Audrey?
take that, or do you guys want to take it?
Or Leap, you can come up, have your debut.
Yeah.
This is Leaf Larson, our benefits
Done a
analyst
lot
for
of
the
work around
county.
employee education,
Yeah,
so great.
so he can kind of speak to what we've already done and then what our plans are for the near future on that.
Sure. So we actually just had a training this afternoon to all of our staff, focused specifically on what the HSA plan is, or what an HSA is, and how to kind of utilize that. In June, or throughout the month of July and in August 1st, technically, I'm going to be doing on-site trainings at all of our county locations. Not only introducing what the HSA is, but going into all of these different plan design changes. So I'm kind of breaking this up into kind of separate different trainings so that it gets to more people, and it kind of, as I'm going through the training, it's kind of more of it's retained, so to speak. So the focus of the July meetings is to make sure that we go through the plan design, and then again re-emphasize how an HSA kind of works within this new plan design. And then I will also do open enrollment meetings in October, again, kind of reviewing a little bit of what we covered in July, but also kind of covering any other plan design related or any other plan changes. So I have a comprehensive plan in place to communicate that to staff.
And thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. One other question. I know that in many other areas we're kind of going to be pressed from a budget standpoint. And so the question is, would it be worth looking at the option of possibly adjusting the traditional plan to increase premiums or employee participation a little bit to save some additional dollars? Now, I know that we're going to be hard pressed on the compensation side as well, but I'm just wondering if that might be an option that would be worth looking at.
So explain a little bit more about what you were thinking.
Well,
there.
for example, maybe increasing their deductibles or increasing. So in other words, we're going to look at increasing the amount that the employee is going to participate, that they're going to pay as part of that traditional plan, which we did. I think we made some of those adjustments last year for 2023. So do a similar type thing just to see if the savings might be worthwhile, because if we can make some of these savings along the way, it might overall benefit our budget challenges.
Yeah, so what we do is we use plan design, and then Jay Counter's actuary comes through and says, okay, well, this is what your premium should be then to cover that plan design. So if you increase deductibles, yes, the premium then will decrease. So we could have a lower premium, but if you're adjusting the traditional, what's going to happen then is that the deductibles will go up, the premium will go down, and then that'll become the lower cost plan. So it does save the county money, but you're also driving everyone then just to stay on the traditional plan instead of going onto the HSA plan. So there's some trade-offs to that concept.
Is there any other questions from anybody? All right, well, thank you very much for your presentation. Thanks for the update on where we stand with county employees. Next, we'll move on then.
Nope, this is a
Oh,
voting agenda item for you.
This is, okay.
Yeah, yep. So this committee is vested with approving any plan design changes. So really, the significance of the plan design changes is the dual plan. So offering the HSA at the terms that we described with the deductibles and out-of-pocket limits, and then the premium categories, I guess, would be part of the plan design.
Okay, we have a motion to,
I'll move to approve.
okay, we have a motion. We have a second? Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion?
So again, this slide, probably the 2024 plan design, this is really, what you're approving is you're approving this package is what we will offer then for the employees.
Okay. I'm not forgetting about your car out there. Do you have anything?
No additional questions for me, thank you.
All right. Hearing no additional questions or any other business with this, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item, number 3, is consideration of tax deed bids from the various properties within St. Croix County.
Good evening, everyone. I did update, just so you know, I did give the handout because it's a little bit easier to read if Ken were to bring up the photos of the properties on here, then maybe you could look along with the papers, but it is updated in your packet as well. So we had 13 parcels that were placed on Wisconsin Surplus Online Auction from May 25th until yesterday. And then we received the highest bids that were received for each of those. And this morning, the tax deed committee, which is myself and Heather and Denise, met and reviewed and organized those bids and put them on the spreadsheet for you. So today, basically, what's before you is to decide whether or not to accept that bid or to not accept that bid that was placed by the highest bidder. We didn't receive any other, all of these parcels had other bids. We didn't receive information for who those bidders were or what the amounts were. We were just given the highest bidder information. So if you want me to go through each one individually and just tell you what the highest bidder was, I can do that. Is that how you want me to, would that be the best way to proceed?
Yeah, that sounds good. Why don't you go through them and maybe just give us a little bit more on the second one then?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And Christine, I have additional information on the second one, so when you get to that, I can give the committee some additional information also.
Okay, that sounds good. The first one is the Berkseth LLP, CO Time Properties LLC. That's located in the village of Baldwin. The value set or the opening bid was set at $37.50. The highest bidder for that was a J. Andrews. I did include his address. He is from New Richmond, Wisconsin. And the highest bid for that was $1,225. The second one is Ellen Bray, Town of Somerset. The value set or the opening bid was set at $30. The winning bidder for that was a Russell Strahoda, Penn Avenue North in Minneapolis, with a bid of $155. And this is the parcel that the gentleman came up in public comment about.
And just for additional information, and we took this parcel back in October of 2008, and so it has just been sitting in the parcels of property that we needed to address. It appears that at one point that little triangle was left off of a legal description in a deed, and so that's why it was taken, and it's such a small parcel of land. And so I just wanted to let you guys know that we did take this quite a while ago, and we just haven't done anything with it for a significant period of time. So as Christine indicated, today you can either approve the bid that was the highest bid or reject the bids. And then there's a different process if the bids are rejected. But I think we'll go through all of them first and then have a discussion about whether you approve them all or not.
And just as a note, just so everyone's aware that prior to the auction starting, all adjacent property owners and all municipalities were sent a letter just informing them that the auction was going to take place so that they were aware. And obviously that must be how they know, as they were bidding on the property themselves. The next one is, whoops.
Just a curiosity question. I mean, do we have any idea why someone from Minneapolis would want to buy .01 acre with no adjoining property and landlocked? It's so illogical.
We do not. All the information that they have to provide on the auction site is their name, address, and phone number. They don't have to tell us why they're purchasing it. All the parcels are sold as is, so we don't make any warranties. We don't tell individuals what they may or may not be able to do with the property. It's just sold as is, so we do not have any information on why individuals would want to purchase parcels.
Do you have a breakdown at all I'm sure you guys know after you went through it, how many were purchased by adjoining property owners?
I do have that on there. So if it was an adjoining property owner, I did put that after their name.
Okay.
The next one, Epic Holdings, Town of Somerset. The opening bid was set at $12,600. The winning bidder was Matthew Lagerin. He is an adjacent property owner, and his bid was $42,488.
Well, there's actually some dry land associated with this. So. And good fishing, probably.
Next one, Edward and Ann Germain, Town of Somerset. The opening bid was set at $30. The winning bidder was Matthew Bombach of Inver Grove Heights, Minnesota, with a bid of $1,300. Next one, Holly Builders, Village of Star Prairie. Opening bid was $30. Winning highest bidder was Jay Andrews of New Richmond, Wisconsin, with a bid of $100. Next is Home Inc., Town of Star Prairie. Opening bid was set at $650. The highest bid received was from Eric Wolf, who is an adjacent property owner in Somerset, with a bid of $1,025. Next, Sam Miller, Town of Somerset. The opening bid was set at $30. Highest bid received was from a Tracy Raditz from Trevor, Wisconsin, with a bid of $55. Robert Walsh, City of New Richmond. Opening bid was set at $30. The highest bid received was from Boss Services, LLC, Eric Hafer, from Burlington, Wisconsin, a bid of $55. United Methodist Church, Town of Hudson, opening bid $500. Highest bid received was from a Nathan Torgerson from Hudson, Wisconsin, with a bid of $2,000. Heritage Valley Corporation, Town of Somerset, opening bid was set at $500. Highest bid was received from Glenn Gooding, who is an adjacent property owner, with a bid of $1,825. Next one, Valley Land Homeowners Association, Town of Troy. $300 was the opening bid. Highest bidder was Aaron Churchin, who is an adjacent property owner in River Falls, Town of Troy, with a bid of $1,500. Hans Hagen Homes, the City of Hudson. Value or opening bid set at $300. Highest bid received from David Godbout, an adjacent property owner in Hudson, the bid of $780. And the last one, Hans Hagen Home, City of Hudson, opening bid set at $300. Highest bidder was Richard Hastreiter, who is an adjacent property owner, with a bid of $1,275. I don't know if you want to look at them individually.
Just going to ask a general question to begin with. I noticed most of these look like they're either like driveway easements or they're road easements, and one of the concerns I got are the people that are using these as potential access. And if this is going to be considered now where they're going to have to perform legal actions, where it would be like what we call in the industry a spite strip, where there's property that's owned that's has to be crossed to be able to get to the public right-of-way.
Heather?
I can try to answer that. So first, we did try to offer all the parcels that appear to be roads to the municipalities and ask them if they would take them over, for little to nothing, basically just the recording fee of $30. So we did offer the town of Star Prairie this road. It's a private road. It's not a town-maintained road. And so the town of Star Prairie was not interested in taking the parcel. And so it's a parcel of land that was previously on the tax roll. And because the taxes weren't paid, we took it. You're right, it may cause some issues between the property owners. I don't know for sure. Christine might have more information as she talked to some of the individuals that were bidding on these parcels. But right now it's a private road anyway that likely one of the individuals on that road is maintaining. I cannot recall if this was purchased by
No, it's
adjacent. So it's possible that it could cause issues. Like I said, we don't ask questions per se. We just put it on the auction site and people bid. But first and foremost, we always check with the municipalities first to see if they are interested in the parcels.
Yeah, this is the only one that really gave me any pause. The landlocked parcel, whoever bought that, they don't have any access to it. They're never going to be able to go to their piece of land that they bought. That one's a little bit different. This one, though, I have seen stories anyways, I don't know if they're true or not, where somebody buys it and then they block it off and they go, well, it's a toll road now, so if you want to access it, I paid this amount of money for it, you guys are going to have to pay me to use it. So I have no idea who the person is that purchased it, but considering it wasn't an adjacent property owner, that's the only pause that I have on this piece of property.
Seemed like there was a couple other ones too but I didn't see if there was any driveways crossing over it. That was the only one?
Question on that one little corner that's landlocked. I mean, is that actually, could you actually do anything with that piece? Could you build something on that piece? Or is it 0.01? I'm in this tiny little corner.
It's 0.01 acres. I can't imagine that there'd be anything you could build on it, and even if you could, there would be no way for the individual to get to that parcel because it's landlocked, and they would have to get permission or an easement from one of the other property owners that surrounds that triangle piece.
Can they go through the legal ways to get a prescriptive easement if they tried to do it that method?
It's possible. It's possible. I guess it would take a lot of work on that individual's part, and I don't know what they would do on that 0.01 acres, but it's always possible.
Yeah, with the zoning ordinances, it makes it pretty difficult to be able to do too much with it, but, the only thing I could think would be like a tower or something that was a site, but again, they would have to go through prescriptive easement. It's
Still not big enough for that.
not even, okay.
Worm farm maybe.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the best way for the committee is to go through each one in motions to approve or reject, or if you want to address.
Or if you want to take all except for, if there's maybe sort of consent agenda, but pull one or two out if you want, or so inclined.
Can I ask a question about that? If we are, if, let's say there's one or two, let's say we look at the one that's the private road, and if we had concerns about that, what, if we were to not approve it, what would happen then? Like, I mean, the bidders went through a process, a standard process to purchase the property and go through the bid. And if we don't approve it, what happens then?
Yes, so we would follow the requirements set forth in 75.69, which means if it's not approved the first time, then we could publish it again. And then instead of putting it on the auction site, we could just put it on our website and allow individuals to bid on it. And we could bring all the bids back to this committee to determine which one is the most advantageous bid. We should still go with the highest bid. But if you don't go with the highest bid, then you just have to indicate in a written statement the reasons for accepting a bid that is less than the highest bid. So that's what would be the process on the ones, if there's any that are rejected, we would put them on our website, publish notice, and then people could bid on them through sealed bids through the county clerk's office. We would have another tax bid committee meeting, open all the bids, bring all the bids back to the administration committee, and then the administration committee can either decide to take the highest bid, or we can prepare a written statement as to the reasons for accepting a bid that is less than the highest bid.
And Chair Cook, just so you're aware, there is a disclaimer on the online auction website that does state that these do have to be approved and that not all bids are automatically awarded, that they do go, there is a process and they do have to go before a committee for approval.
And
Okay, great, thank you.
And the private road, I'm not saying that you shouldn't approve that. I don't know what the intention is of the person that's buying it. And it doesn't become our problem, but we could be creating a problem for the owners on that private driveway. It's only a possibility, but I just wanted you to do so with full knowledge of what the chances are of that happening.
More specifically, if there's a bid or two that we turn down, is there any legal recourse for the highest bidder?
The highest bidder could make an equal protection argument as to why you weren't choosing them and they're the highest bid, but obviously they'd have to file that action against the county. The disclaimer, as Christine indicated, does indicate that the administration committee has to approve the bids before they're accepted and before the auction company collects the money. But it does say, in the statute, any county may accept the bid most advantageous to it, but at the first attempt to sell the property, every bid less than the appraised value of the property shall be rejected. We did not receive any bids that were less than the bid that we required the auction company start with. We said this is the minimum bid. So there really is not any other direction in the statute, and I also reviewed Chapter 3, which is the ordinance regarding tax deeded lands, and there isn't any other direction in our ordinance as to like reasonings that this committee could approve or reject. So in my research, it just indicates that you should approve the highest bid, but if you reject it, then there's a process for us to go forward. But there's always a possibility that we can be sued.
I move that we adopt all the proposed tax deed property sales with the exception of the property now known as the Bray property, the second item we just talked about.
Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second. And I would like to amend that motion to, to add the Ellen Bray property for that landlocked piece. Oh, that's the one you said. Oh, I'm sorry. That one, but I also, I have a problem with the road, the private road. I think we need to, yes, I'm sorry. I misspoke. I'm just confused.
Okay,
To make it easy, why don't I just accept his amendment and move on?
okay. We have a motion and a second for the all properties except the Bray and the Germain property. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, then we'll move on to start with the, which one comes first? The Bray property. Do we have anything about what the secondary bid was? No, you don't have that information.
We don't, we don't have, well, they probably do because they bid on it, but we don't have any information. So the two that you did not approve today, we'll deem those as rejected, and then we'll publish notice and repost them on the county clerk's website.
Okay.
Unless that was not the intent of the motion.
That's what I'd like clarification on what we just voted on, then
Yeah, I think what you did was you approved all but these two. So you still have the ability to take action on these two, which could include still approving them, the high bidder, or some other action.
It's either approval or rejection.
Okay.
Approval of the highest bidder at this point, approval of the highest bidder or rejection.
So, point of inquiry. So we can make a motion to bring these two back to light to discuss, and then we can either table them for a different time, or do we have to take action on them today?
If what I'm understanding, you're rejecting the highest bid today, then the next action is Christine will publish class,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
or you can table it. Yes, I guess I would.
Just really quick, I'm sorry. What did we just do then? Because I guess I thought we were just pulling these two, which is why I voted the way we did, and set them over here, approve the other ones. And are the other two still, are we still able to motion them to the table to discuss?
Yes.
For approval or not approval?
You approved everything but these two. These two are still floating,
Okay.
waiting for your action.
Thank you.
Got that clarified, so should we start with the first one, which was the Bray property?
Great. What motion would you recommend that we bring it to take action on as our council?
You can either make a motion to reject the highest bid, you can make a motion to approve the highest bid, or you can make a motion to postpone addressing this matter until the next meeting, if you would like further information about the property.
Okay. And a follow-up, do you have a recommendation for us? Or,
I do not. I would either recommend that you approve the highest bid or you reject the highest bid, and then we'll go to the next step.
okay.
Could we also ask the corporate counsel to potentially contact further people involved with this and ask for a report back at the next time we take them up? So for
Additional-
example, you could contact the highest bidder in the Bray case and say, hey, you just bought 10 feet of property. We don't know what you can do with it, so we rejected it because you may have done it inadvertently, not knowing what you were buying. Another party might have an interest in buying it. Do you still want to buy it? And it's up for auction now or on our website. And then they'll have the opportunity to bid for it if they really want it, or the party that has the adjacent property can bid on it and potentially obtain the property if they want it.
I do believe we will send letters to bids that are rejected, just informing them of the fact that their bid was rejected and that the notice will be published and it will be resold on the county clerk's website. I don't know if it would be appropriate for me to ask them why they bid, or it did, what was their reasonings, but I think we need to send them a letter indicating that their bid was rejected.
I think that if tomorrow morning I need to contact the Wisconsin Online Surplus website and let them know the outcome of this meeting, they then will contact the bidders to let them know if their bid was accepted or rejected. I was under the impression that if something was rejected, it's kind of dead at this point, and it comes back, and it's just yet again another tax deed property that's owned by the county, and then we not go through the online bidding option again. We post it for sale on our website and take bids a little bit more informally, not using the just sealed bids as opposed to an auction bid. That's because I think in the past bids have been rejected because they didn't meet and then it just kind of starts over. They didn't meet the minimum set value, and then they just go back to the county clerk's office and she starts anew, kind of with posting and advertising, running a 1 week advertisement at that point and posting it on the website and opening it up for sealed bids at that point again.
Yeah, anytime we've tried to move these properties in the past, we didn't receive a bid high enough over the minimum, usually 0 bids. Nobody wanted them. Christine's done a much better job of marketing. So we have bids on all these properties, even $42,000 for a lake. But so this is a little bit different. We really cleaned up a lot of stuff with this. That's why it's such a long list. This isn't a normal thing. This is, a decade's worth of cleanup that you're seeing here tonight. So I think the question really, though, that Supervisor Fiedler had was, should we tell the people that are rejected they were rejected because they weren't adjacent property owners and we really didn't know what they wanted to do with the property? Is that an appropriate thing to tell them?
Well, and quite frankly, for all we know with the road, I mean, we know because of the adjacent property owners with the Bray property, we know that they don't know who that is. But as far as the road goes, we don't know that that person's not bidding on behalf of somebody that does live there. We don't know that he's not helping somebody that does live there. We don't know what his intentions are. So
would it be appropriate to push these off to the next admin committee meeting, and maybe especially with like the road one, would it be appropriate to ask them to maybe zoom in or come here? And I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but
The bidders?
yes.
that would be a great question for the online auction service, how much they have contact with them and how they feel if it's appropriate to ask them those questions. And I can find out and gather all that stuff between now and the next meeting for sure.
Again, there's no direction in the statutes. I just don't want to create any equal protection arguments. Like, everybody has a right to bid on property, but there is the section of the statute that indicates, if you do, at the next step, if you don't take the highest bid, you can explain the reasoning for accepting a bid that is less than the highest bid, which could be because they're not adjacent property owners.
Can I make a comment or ask a question? I'm wondering, I'm a little concerned about us going beyond just taking the high bid in this initial part of the process. To me, it seems like if we have concerns, perhaps we should reject the bids and then go to the next process, which I'm not an expert on, but based on the description that we've heard, it seems like at the next process, if we post it on the county website and then we have an option to look at different factors almost, it seems like at that part of the process, to then decide if we want to accept or reject bids from that point. Is that a correct and kind of summary of the situation? Is the part where we post it to the county website and then have more discussion, is that really where we have generally some more leeway as far as just not approving and rejecting the bids, or am I off base on that?
You are on base, and that is on point. The other benefit is that we will, the second go-round, we'll have all the bids submitted as sealed bids, but when the tax committee meets, we will open all the bids, and we'll have all the bids for you, meaning the lowest bid up to the highest bid and everything in between. We can tell you who the highest bidder is, and we can tell you who the next highest bidder is. And if you believe that it's more advantageous to take the second bidder than the highest bidder, then you can just state in a written statement after the meeting why it is that you are not taking the highest bid. So you'll know more. At this point, through the auction, we only know the highest bidder. We don't get any other information from the auction site regarding how many people bid, what were the other bids. And so that is the benefit of the second step if you reject those two highest bids today.
I'd like to
So
move.
with that we reject these two bids.
Thank you. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to reject the Bray bid and the Germain bid. Is there any further discussion? We'll vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Motion carries.
Thank you.
On the Germain one, posting after the meeting, I have some information for you on that particular one. There was a lot of things that happened when I was on the town board for a while there regarding that exact piece. Okay, the next item's consideration of capital improvement projects for the administrative departments.
Good evening, committee. Well, I'm going to go through these individually. The first five are reoccurring. They're going every year, so I'm just going to go through those pretty quickly. The first one, where we have $200,000 per year, is for small building projects and improvements. Furniture that needs to be replaced, that type of thing. The second one is fleet replacement, vehicle replacement, whereas they have a 5-year rotation, so they replace them every 5 years, and that's $250 for the first 2 years, and then inflation kind of kicks it up all the way to $265 in fiscal year 28. We got $65,000 for equipment and electrical equipment. Also appliances for public areas and that type of thing. HVAC replacement, basically the maintenance on the HVAC replacements at $125,000 per year. Safety and security, security equipment throughout detectors and scanners, $45,000 per year. Parking lot patch and seal from $50,000 in 24 and $50,000 in 27. The $50,000 in 24 is for the service center, and then the 27 is for the south parking lot here at the government center. Next one is $5,000 in 27 for a new folding and inserting machine. Next one is $300,000 for a generator replacement in 27. The next one is $220,000, a new parking lot for the D&D building, replacement in New Richmond. Next one is $370,000 in fiscal year 24 for an upgrade of the government center elevators. The next one is $400,000 for fiscal year 25 for the solar array in Baldwin Ag Center.
I'm hoping that at some point we've done a cost-benefit analysis on that kind of expenditure to make sure that it's going to be worthwhile.
Yeah, we've been looking at that. The paybacks, if you look at just the cost and the electrical savings paybacks, they're pretty long still. But there's a new federal legislation, if it survives the challenges of the courts, that will allow local units of government to claim tax credits by filing a Form 990T and claiming those credits. So like the $7,500 electric vehicle tax credit that you could get as a personal taxpayer, the county would be able to claim those same tax credits. Even though we don't pay taxes, we'd get a direct payment from the federal government. So that's a new program starting up. So that should significantly change the paybacks on some of these programs related to solar. So yes, we do look at that.
$130,000 to replace the government center west driveway in 27. Landscaping for the nursing home, the CBRF, $55,000 in 24 and $80,000 in 27, and that's part for the irrigation that wasn't completed in 23. Government center solar panels for $730,000 in fiscal year 26. D&D building fire sprinkler system. I believe they don't have one out there. $360,000 in 27. $300,000 in 27 for nursing home hot water plant replacement. Nursing $30,000 in 24 for the nursing home grease trap. They don't have a grease trap now. They're doing some maintenance on it whenever it clogs up. $500,000 in 24 for the Ag Center fire sprinkler. And $1.6 million in fiscal year 25 for Government Center jail new roof on the 1993 roof. Jail wire mesh screening for $700,000 in 24. 27, nursing home stage conversion of hallway carpets to PVT plank floors. Next section is for IT. They got some reoccurring projects at $75,000 for the first 2 fiscal years and then $150,000 going forward. Ongoing CIP requests providing funding for IT projects and equipment. Replacements are not part of the operating budget. The county data storage replacement in fiscal year 28, $200,000. $500,000 in replacing aging jail and health center security cameras in 28. And copy machines for clerk of courts in the district attorney's office, $18,000 in 24 and $15,000 in fiscal year 27. Are there any questions?
You want the questions at the end or you want them as we go?
That is the end. It's not all 3 pages. That comes out to about 2.5 million on a 3.6 million for 24, covering the whole county.
I have a few questions. I see that in FY 27, item 405, that you're looking at a $300,000 generator replacement. Which building is that for? The
Service center. you said.
service center, okay. And then the upgrade to the government center elevators, $370,000. Is that not part in our overall reconstruction project, or that's a separate, all of a sudden now it's separate?
That's the jail elevator, he said.
Okay, different elevator.
Yep. We got lots of elevators.
So the jail elevator that's in this part of the building, that wasn't included?
There's no changes to the jail elevator under the government center remodel project. That elevator was untouched.
Okay. And then the IT recurring projects, and we're going from a budget of 75,000 jumping, then by 26 it doubles for the next years. Then after that, what is involved with that, if I could ask?
So we use that funding. So it's been 75 for 3 out of the 5 years, and it was 150 for 2 of the 5 years. And it's been going like that, but our cost to replace equipment that is good for all. So we replace electronics, we replace, do projects for audiovisual upgrades, security projects, anything that's good for the entire county, we kind of roll into the recurring projects where they're not part of our operating budget as on an ongoing basis. We pick and choose those based on need, and I sit down with my engineering team and talk about what we think would be the best approach going forward. We plan that out for a few years, and it's gotten to the point now where we can't really get much project done for $75,000 because everything's gone up in price. So we're trying to get all 5 years to be $150,000 instead of 75, 75, 75, and then 150, 150. We replace things like network switches where they go about every 7 years on them. We get a life cycle. And when we do buy them, it's $150,000 or $200,000. We budget for breakage every year about $30,000, $40,000 for things like network switches and servers. But it doesn't cover a replacement when we have to replace 25 switches at $7,000 to $10,000 each. And they're spread out all over the county. So it's one of those pieces there.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything?
Question for the administrator. On the fleet vehicle replacement, that does not include the sheriff's vehicles, is that correct?
Correct. The sheriff's vehicles are another 500-some thousand per year.
And we lease our vehicles?
No, we purchase our vehicles.
We purchase our vehicles.
Yeah. The general county fleet is purchased. The sheriff patrol vehicles are purchased. The only vehicles that we're leasing are a section of the sheriff's investigator and command staff vehicles. We've done a cost analysis. It's cheaper to purchase the vehicle and rotate it through and sell it and take that sales and credit it back to the KIP.
And a second question. Just a second question, and I'll just say I was aghast at the $700,000 figure for the jail wire mesh screening in the jail. We did talk about that at the Public Protection Committee meeting last month. I think the sheriff was also aghast at that cost because it basically is putting a metal screen down from the ceiling to the second floor balcony so people don't jump off or kill themselves or hang themselves. And because of the potential liability, we felt that probably had to be done, but I think when we first started out thinking about what that would cost, I think everybody thought that number would be way, way, way down in the lower six figures as opposed to $700,000 to put up a wire screen when we've had like 2 or 3 incidents over a number of years that would justify it. So, we swallowed hard, I think, at Public Protection and said, well, if you need it, and that's what all the studies show that, life is at stake potentially in putting it up, we would support it. But I just point out that's a huge figure. The only other one I would question is the Ag Center fire sprinkler system. They don't have one now, they just use fire extinguishers, and now we think it's very, very important to have a sprinkler system as opposed to old-fashioned ways of putting out fires. I guess I'd say, is that a luxury or is that an absolute? Because $500,000 for something that, unless we're told it's a fire trap and everybody's telling us it has to be done and we have huge danger and safety to our employees, I just want to hear more about why we need to spend $500,000.
I believe the big reason for that is there's 4 garage stalls there, so we're parking vehicles and inside. So that's why we're looking at the fire sprinkler system there. And that's a wood-built building.
Think it's because of the value of those vehicles and the potential liabilities that we'd have if the building burned up, that we want to spend $500,000 on a sprinkler system? Just another question. And when we determine these costs, have they been the subject of bids to you, or how did we get to $500,000 for a sprinkler system?
We had that quoted for doing that building. So it would go out to bid.
So several folks was that put out to bid and that was the best bid we could receive?
No, we just got a number from a company that.
It's an estimate right now.
Right, it's just an estimate.
It will be bid though, but that's our best guess of what the price will come in at. You know, staff goes through and they make recommendations, but they are not the decider. You are the deciders. So, I mean, you have to take into consideration the recommendation that we've made and determine whether that's the right use of the county's resources. So.
2 questions while you're up. So you're saying that one of the primaries is that there's in-building parking on the lower level?
Correct.
And is the construction that was in there not adequate to meet state code, or where were we at with that doesn't have the proper fire separation, ventilation, and those types of things?
I'm not sure on the codes for that. That's a process we're doing, is to get all of our buildings sprinklered that we store vehicles in.
Okay. And the other question wouldn't necessarily be for you, but does this have any impact on the county for insurance purposes by whether the building's sprinklered or not sprinklered?
I don't believe it does. It's not going to affect our insurance rates. It's one of the questions they ask, but we don't have a different rate for sprinklered or unsprinkled buildings. We have just one insurance rate.
Do we need an approval on this then, or where are we at with this?
Yep. So we're going to go to Committee of the Whole in July and go through it. Now is time just for early input. Make sure that you've had a chance to see it ahead of time and able to ask some questions at the July Committee of the Whole before it comes back for a recommendation to the county board and eventually in the budget.
And when was that again?
It's
August?
July.
July.
Yep, July 18th, I think, is the Committee of the Whole meeting. The day before Bob's vacation.
And if I may, and we're really primarily focused on 2024, correct?
Yeah, so 2024 will be the year that's funded, but the other years are the years that we're continuing to plan for. So we're still spending staff time and resources looking at this, and the closer it gets to the funded year, the more time that the staff spends, taking it into consideration and starts that planning process. So like I always say, if there's something on there that you don't intend to fund, just pull it off now so we stop wasting staff time looking at it.
It's a question on the government facilities jail elevator. Is there, for doing the upgrades, is that past its useful life right now, or what's the considerations on that?
I think they have a maintenance schedule, and this is, I don't remember if this is the cab or the controls on there, but there's a time frame where they recommend that things be replaced before they break and fall down or something. So a lot of times, especially with life safety type things like that, you just do them on a set rotation, which are fairly long. I think it's like a 20-year life on some of those things, but I believe that's what's going on with the elevator. No action necessary tonight.
Okay, no
So if
action.
you're done with questions, we can go on to the next item.
All right. So item number 5, resolution updating county board compensation per diem mileage and expense reimbursement policy.
Okay. We recently updated the handbook or the personnel policy for employees for per diems and increased those rates based on the increased cost of food, et cetera. This resolution will also then update the county board's compensation per diem mileage and expense reimbursement policy to reflect what is being allowed for employees to take as per diems per day. So this is just making consistent, county board supervisors will get the same rates as employees.
And since it's been so long since either of the rates were updated, we didn't really think about this ahead of time till it was questioned afterwards. But the other thing we're doing with this resolution is we're tying the two together. The same that we did a number of years ago with the mileage rate. We used to come back every year and reapprove mileage every time the IRS changed it. Instead, we just tied it to the IRS rate so you don't have to update it every year. So just like this, we're going to tie this to the personnel policy per diems. So anytime you update it there, it'll change in this place also.
I'll move the adoption of the resolution updating the county board compensation per diem mileage and expense reimbursement policy.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 6 on the business items is resolution amending personnel handbooks, travel time policy, and remote work policy.
Okay, so with the travel time policy, you can see everything in red is new. So I basically rewrote the entire policy. The original policy was about 4 sentences long, pretty broad and vague, and so we had a lot of questions on what constitutes travel time paid versus personal time unpaid. So just went through and defined everything to clarify the questions that people had on how to be able to use that time appropriately. And then the remote work policy also in here. We created a definition and expectation for remote work. And then we also included expectations about being available and uninterrupted during work hours. We had some issues with maybe people doing second jobs or providing home care for dependents, things like that. So just kind of setting those expectations of if you are working remotely, you need to be available. And that is about it for both of those.
So a motion to approve, do we have a motion?
Yep, motion to approve resolution amending personnel handbook, travel time policy, and remote work policy.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say something.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, very nice job on this. I read through it and I was like, yeah, it was very well done, very thorough. So thank you for doing that.
Thanks.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 7, reclassification request for Public Health Program Support Associate 1 to Program Support Associate 2.
Okay, so the Public Health Department was asked to complete a new position description questionnaire and job description for their program support associates. After HR became aware that the job duties of the current JD didn't really accurately define the position anymore, the job duties had shifted and changed over time. So after assessing the new job description that was created, it's determined that those new job duties and responsibilities really do fall in line with the Program Support Associate 2, which is already an existing position for other departments in the county, and should be really classified as a 2 versus a 1 for public health as well. So it's our recommendation to reclassify the existing position to a Program Support Associate 2. That change will cost approximately $3,100 because it is graded differently than the Program Support Associate 1.
So we have a motion.
I'll move to approve the reclassification request. There isn't a resolution in the package, is that correct?
No, no resolution. This is an administrative committee action item, so it only goes to committee.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And business item number 8, reclassification request for Behavioral Health Program Support Associate 1 to Program Support Associate 2.
So pretty much the same deal as public health. We took a look at the assigned job duties of what the position is actually performing versus maybe what was on the job description, and determined that really the job duties do better align with the Program Support Associate 2 for this position as well. The estimated cost is around $700 for the year to do this change.
Go ahead.
I'll move to approve the additional reclassification request.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the reclassification request, Behavioral Health Program Support Associate 1 to Program Support Associate 2. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. So moving on, is there any requests for future agenda items?
Not a request, just for you to look forward to it. The annual library resolution is going to be coming up soon. So you guys can look forward to that.
All right. So do we have any announcements or correspondence? Hearing none, and I guess we'll, next meeting, do we know that date? So July 18th. So we'll adjourn. It's 6:14. Thank you.